Everyone, we are already live on our Facebook page, and I'm very pleased to invite you and see you for this webinar on corruption in higher judiciary in India. I'm very pleased to introduce to you our esteemed speakers for today's webinar, Justice Retired S.N. Dhingra sir. He needs no introduction. He has been a member of the Competition Commission of India. He has also been a chairman of the review committee, which was required to look into the UAPA Act. And Justice Dhingra has been part of various SITs and panels constituted by the honorable courts from time to time. So I welcome you, Dhingra sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We are also joined in today by Abha Singh, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much. Ma'am is a bureaucrat turned advocate right now, practicing at the High Court of Bombay. She has been doing some fantastic work with all the sections of society, including women and the people who've not been able to secure legal aid for themselves. Ma'am has been working with them. She has also been a Chevening Scholar at the London School of Economics. So all in all, it's our pleasure to have all our speakers and all our guests for today's webinar. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Okay. So in the beginning, ma'am, let's start with first things first. And here is a small question, because we had opened up our forms and we had asked the participants to submit questions to us. Now, one question figures everywhere. They are asking us, is it even safe to discuss corruption in higher judiciary in India on a social media platform? So I would like both of our speakers to explain to the students, law students, can we actually discuss corruption in higher judiciary in India on a social media platform? Is it safe?
It is quite safe. There is no danger of anyone of persons speaking or listening, or the platform itself of being hauled up for contempt of court, because we are not discussing individual judges. We are not telling which individual judge is corrupt or which is not corrupt. So we are talking about what is, happening in judiciary. What is the status of judiciary as far as corruption is concerned? And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not afraid of discussing this topic anywhere. I've discussed it at many platforms. And I think nobody should be afraid, even if you are hauled up for contempt, let there be contempt. If we are not able to speak on the corruption in judiciary, then we should not ever think of removing corruption. The target is how to remove the corruption. Target is not only to speak.
Very true. I think.
Thank you so much, sir, for.
I agree with sir. I think the protocol would be I should call her Sir Lordship. But now, if sir permits, I'll keep it.
No, I don't want you to call me Lordship. Even when I was on bench, I used to discourage people.
So magnanimous of you, sir, because in the contempt thing, they said magnanimity cannot be stretched. So I would say it's very generous of you. And Vedansh, you are very right when you said that people are scared because your topic was so scary that even when I put it up in WhatsApp groups, people were worried for me and they said, I hope you don't get a contempt notice for even saying that the judiciary is corrupt. But I think Justice Dhingra is really emboldening us, I think, with his confidence, which he says we should not be scared of contempt, because the very basis, if we talk of justice and even contempt, it is based on 19(1) of the article of the Constitution, which says freedom of speech. You know, that is our fundamental right. I mean, freedom of speech and expression, that is what is prime. And I think if we are, as rightly sir said, that if we are not taking names, we are discussing corruption in general, we have very much, as a citizen of this country who is protected by the Constitution, we have a freedom of speech and expression. And I would like to tell you here, I was working in the civil services for 20 years. And my husband always told me one thing, that as a bureaucrat, as a government servant, you have been deprived of your freedom of speech and expression for 20 years. That was the only reason I resigned from the government. I quit the government and I became a lawyer. And I felt that I need to be the voice of the voiceless. So definitely, contempt is not going to scare us.
That's great, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's sending a very good message to all the law students because this is a very important topic. And let me tell you that we are joined in by law students across the country today. We have received an overwhelming response from law students across the country, even though they were scared to be part of this webinar, but still they registered for it and they came for this webinar. So I congratulate everyone who's part of this discussion today. We have started discussing with something which is very important, which is very pertinent. It is pertinent to every lawyer, every advocate, but more so for the law students who are going to enter the profession in the coming times. And they need to be aware about things which are actually not talked about in the past. So I congratulate you, S.N. Dhingra sir, ma'am, and as we know that this topic has now come into the fore in the wake of the recent judgment passed in by the Supreme Court of India in the case of Mr. Prashant Bhushan. Now, the court has passed that judgment, so we are free to actually fairly criticize that judgment. So I would ask Abha Singh ma'am, because she has been very vocal about this topic and she's been writing on various platforms. So I would ask ma'am that this particular case has many dimensions, but one of the dimensions pertains to the corruption in higher judiciary in India. So, ma'am, what do you have to say about it, the manner in which this judgment is passed? Are you happy with the judgment? Do you think there is something wrong with the judgment? Please elaborate your views if you can.
I am devastated. I would say I'm devastated with this judgment because Prashant Bhushan is legendary. He has been fighting for transparency. He has been fighting against corruption. I mean, he's been someone which everyone looks upon. And today, when you are ready to dole out punishment to him for a tweet, I mean, what did he tweet? All he said was that Chief Justice on a Harley Davidson. So, I mean, again, I would say I'm going back to myself, but we worked in the government and we were not ready to, we were told first thing as government servants that you have to, there's a protocol that you have to follow. And when you're sitting in that chair, Caesar's wife has to be above suspicion. So if he just tweeted, it was a public opinion, it was his personal opinion. And in fact, Dushyant Dave, when he was arguing for Prashant Bhushan, he kept saying that is an opinion. And how does it become contempt? In fact, the manner in which the Supreme Court was not ready to even listen to the Attorney General, was not ready to even discuss the technicalities, and it went ahead. That itself has put people in doubt that whether Prashant Bhushan is going to get justice or not. So that the tweets, the other one in which he said that democracy, I mean, the first Chief Justice who will be responsible for killing democracy in this country. I mean, as a citizen of this country, as I said, 19(1)(a), freedom of speech and expression, Mr. Prashant Bhushan has not taken any name. Did he take a name? He did not. And my question is, when his order is written out on 24th, can the bench, Supreme Court bench of 3 judges, write that yes, there is no corruption in judiciary? Let them write that every single judge in these courts is honest, we will take it. When you say, when the Prime Minister says, I'm trying to finish corruption in income tax, when you talk of corruption in police, the judges also come from this society. So when every other organization you call corrupt, how do you expect that judges who come from the same society will be above board? So, I mean, contempt is something which has kept people quiet. But now everybody wants to know the truth. When you call policemen corrupt, when you call income tax people corrupt, so are they not human? So this is what I feel. And in fact, Justice Dave was very right when he said that Article 370, this abrogation was not taken up for months. And if Prashant Bhushan said that the Supreme Court is under lockdown, it is. My important PILs of manual scavengers, those widows of scavengers who died while cleaning septic tanks in Mumbai. This PIL I have in Bombay High Court, and I'm not able to take it on board for the last 5 months, because what has the court said? That only extremely urgent cases can be taken up on board. And when Prashant Bhushan says that the Chief Justice has kept the Supreme Court under lock, that is what he meant. Everybody knows it's working, video conferencing, but we know if everyone is not so tech savvy. Urgent cases are going to be taken up on board. 80% of the cases don't come up. So what was wrong in that tweet when he said? And now Justice Mishra says, you have given a wrong message saying that the courts are closed and when we have been working. So you have to see the larger picture. So I feel I've been there in Bombay High Court. My important PILs, there's another PIL of mine in Bombay High Court that is for sexual harassment at workplace. I'm not able to take it on board because the first thing the registrar tells me, you tell me what is the urgency in your PIL. So,
Ma'am, here I would like to just intervene here because I would like to draw your attention towards one specific topic, and we are discussing corruption in higher judiciary in India. And Mr. Bhushan's second tweet, actually, it said that the last 4 Chief Justices of India have been particularly responsible for the mess. And he submitted a detailed affidavit, which included transcripts, certain transcripts, a lot of newspaper reports. But unfortunately, I find that the court has not commented upon it, and the order is silent on the allegations of corruption in judiciary. So this is something which I find problematic. I went through the whole judgment yesterday, and I was not able to find where the Honorable Court actually dealt with those allegations. So here is my question to Justice Dhingra, that Mr. Bhushan, sir, you have been a judge and you would be in a better position to tell us all that the respondent in the present case, the alleged contemner, actually submitted a detailed affidavit laying down a lot of annexures pointing out to certain malice in the institution, which has been unfortunately not been dealt with. So, sir, what do you think can be the reason, and why is the court actually silent on such issues?
Mr. Raj, first thing I would like to say is that you are going off the topic.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Not to discuss one case. Topic was not to discuss Prashant Bhushan matter. The topic was to discuss corruption in judiciary and corruption in higher judiciary. Higher judiciary, by what I understood, was High Court and Supreme Court. So instead of discussing corruption in higher judiciary, we are discussing Prashant Bhushan and his case. I'm sorry, this is not the topic, and this will be sheer wastage of time, because Prashant Bhushan has many advocates who have spoken on his behalf. You will find articles written, everything is there. What people are not discussing is that what is the shape of corruption in judiciary, how people are suffering due to this corruption, and how corruption can be removed. If we have to discuss Prashant Bhushan case, I think much has already been discussed and talked of in the Supreme Court and in High Courts and public forum. I'm sorry, this is not a forum where you want to discuss Prashant Bhushan.
That's true, sir. That's true.
And I would say that if your PILs is the only thing Supreme Court has to take, let us have a PIL Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has to take the common man cases. The appeals are pending. The appeals of people who are in jail or who have been convicted, who are wrongly convicted according to them, they want to be heard. And we know cases where Supreme Court, after a person has already undergone sentence, declares him that he was innocent. So these kind of cases show that there is least management in the Supreme Court. Let us discuss why there is no management in the Supreme Court, where the corruption enters into Supreme Court, that instead of taking up cases in the sequence in which they are filed, the Supreme Court is happy to take cases which are filed by people like Prashant Bhushan or Kapil Sibal or Dave or such famous advocates? Where are the, you see, voice of the man who cannot afford these advocates? So corruption, you are not looking at the angle which actually is, you see, finishing supreme justice for the common man. I consider that is the corruption, that you
That
are
is true,
not,
sir.
and you are, see, every seminar and webinar, if discusses Prashant Bhushan, where does the common man go?
So, sir,
I agree
I'm
with you,
very
sir.
sorry
I
if it.
agree with Justice Dingla that Supreme Court, till the time you don't have a name like Abhishek Manu Singhvi, a lawyer like Kapil Sibal, you know your case will not be heard. I mean, that is the perception which is in the lower courts and in other states. So definitely. But again, sir, I would like to come to the press conference which was held by the four sitting judges, in which Justice Ranjan Gogoi himself was there, Justice Chillameshwar was there, and they had said, and these were quote unquote, that that there were certain things in the apex court were not in order, and many things less than desirable were happening. So when you had four judges of the Supreme Court holding a press conference, I felt as a lawyer in Bombay High Court, I felt as a citizen of this country that a committee should have been set up. When they said that the boards are managed, the boards, their selective cases are taken up, at that time when we had senior judges of Supreme Court raising issues, why did we not set up an inquiry to look into these issues? I
See,
mean, that is my question, sir, if you
all
can
these
tell me.
senior judges, one point or other point of time, they were chief justices of different high courts. Please look into their record, what they did in their own high court to bring the things to order. See, it is very easy to criticize, but it is very difficult to do the things. These judges, these very judges, at one point of time had been Supreme Court, chief justices of their own high courts. And you look at their record, what reforms they brought, what reform they brought as Supreme Court judges, what reformative steps did they take in the different committees. They were members of collegium. Did any one of them hold that this collegium is an absurdity? That you are just doing bargaining, barter system. Either that you see, everybody knows that if a particular person becomes chief justice, the whole bar knows who will be now the judges of different high courts. How it happens that people know in advance that with this chief justice at apex in the apex court, or this particular chief justice in high court, who are the persons whose name will be recommended now for the bench. This is corruption. You do not consider it corruption, but this is the basic corruption. This is where from corruption starts. That you become a judge if you are close to somebody. And when you are close to somebody, whether in executive or in judiciary, and you become judge, you are obliged to become judge. And you are bound to oblige. Even a cup of tea doesn't come free, as it is said. If you take cup of tea, sometime it remains in your mind somewhere that he offered me a cup of tea, I have to offer him a cup of tea. So this is how judiciary is functioning. We are not actually devolving upon the problem. We are only looking at the result. Result is bound to be there. Whether Prashant Bhushan criticizes or these four judges criticize or anybody, you or me criticize. But the problem remains. How to, you see, first we have to admit that this is a problem. Then we have to find out the causes of the problem. What are the causes of this problem? The whole judiciary, you see, is staring at the problem, but why nobody is doing anything? See, there is no order, there is no, you see, administrative order in what sequence the cases will be taken in any high court. Any judge, if he wants to take a case out of the cause list, first he can take that case first and keep aside all other cases. So this, where is the order?
In fact, sir, there's a question which comes, was NJAC better than Collegium? I would like to know from you, what is your feeling that
Let us say NGAC is as equally bad as is the collegium. Let us assume this. We have to find out. If we say NGAC is bad, as the Supreme Court collectively said that NGAC is bad by majority, then Supreme Court should have come up that you make these changes in NGAC. We will accept it. That in NGAC, this balance is not there. But saying that no, NGAC is not to be at all considered as the alternative and only collegium will do it, means that you are power hungry. You want to keep the power with you, and you want to keep the absolute power of appointment of judges. And absolute power corrupts. This everybody knows, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is why we are having.
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but I agree with you that there are lobbies. Vedansh, I've been in this field for 7 years. I've come from outside. I was in the government. Yes, and there was this district judge who came to me. His wife came to me, sir. And she said, my husband was due to become a high court judge. He was first in his batch. His name should have been there, but his name is not there. Can you imagine? I'm just a lawyer, and the judge's wife comes to me and says, you help me, my husband's name should have been there. And then she told me, and which I'm sharing with the students, that there are lobbies. She said, when you had politicians from Marathwada area, there were more judges in the High Court from Marathwada. Now you have RSS in Nagpur, you have BJP in Maharashtra, you will have more judges from the strong political leaders from that area. So, of course, people talk about it, but because the sword of contempt hangs on all of us, nobody wants to speak out. Because end of the day, your bread and butter is in front of that same bench. So you would not have lawyers speaking it out. But Justice Dhingra is very right. The first corruption starts in how you reach the High Court and then the Supreme Court, because there is no transparency. At least in bureaucracy, you know that you will get your promotion here, you will get your promotion there. But even there, supersession happens. So if we don't make appointments transparent, and let me tell you that district judge, he did not get into the High Court, and I was helped. The wife would come and sob in my office and was very sad. Eventually, he was asked to, his services were terminated. And if I go by the wife, she said he was dead honest, he was not social, and he was first in his batch. So, but he didn't make it to the Bombay High Court bench, and then he was retired 1 year before his tenure.
Madam, this is what I'm saying.
So here, yes, sir, I have a question. Let me just
target, find out the problem, and then the solution. Where does the problem lie? Does it lie only?
Yes, sir, sure.
Does it lie only in appointment?
Sure, sir. Sir, so I was discussing, you rightly said that this discussion is not about Mr. Prashant Bhushan's case per se, but I was pointing out to certain allegations which he has made in his affidavit, and that contempt case is now pending for the last 10 years. So we will not go by the case per se since it is sub judice, but there are a lot of newspaper reports, and eminent judges like Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer has consistently written on this topic, saying that this issue needs to be dealt firmly by the judiciary. He went on to the extent to say that the Supreme Court should halt for some time. Ad hoc judges should be appointed. There should be a panel which should consist of the speakers of both the houses, and there should be day-to-day hearings, and the allegations against the chief justices of this country needs to be investigated. Now, this has been in public domain since a very long time. Judges come, they have been consistently writing about it. Justice Kadju is on record, Justice Rumapal has been on record, and all these newspaper reports are available with us. But here is one question, that why are these cases not being investigated upon? That is the important question, sir, which we would like to put forward to you.
What do you think will be the result of investigation? You had investigation in case of Justice Gogoi, when one of the employee of the Supreme Court made certain allegations against Justice Gogoi. What was the kind of investigation done by the Supreme Court judges? And what was the result of an investigation? You see, it is not the mere investigation in X or Y case. You cannot just say that why it is not being investigated. You have to remove the root cause of the corruption. Unless you remove the root cause of the corruption cannot go. You keep investigating, there will be sham investigations. You will find that my brother judge, you see, if an investigation is to be done against Supreme Court judge, then who will do investigation? Either a sitting Supreme Court judge or a retired Supreme Court judge or someone higher than that. Because somebody who is lower in status, he won't have courage to investigate. And
Exactly.
the brother judges, you see, they are all called brother and sister judges. Brother judges are equally protective as bureaucracy. Let me tell you. See, in bureaucracy, we used to hear the batchmates, they used to protect each other. Whether you see, whatever be the case, if you are from the same IAS batch, the batchmate will protect you. They will take care of your protection. Same is in case of other services. Same is case of in judiciary. You see, the Supreme Court judges, do you think it was a rare case that one judge against who was Punjab and Haryana High Court Chief Justice, that the judges said that he was involved in corruption and his matter was referred to Parliament for this impeachment. Now, what happened in impeachment? Since he was from South India, the entire South Indian lobby of Parliament walked out and did not vote. And for impeachment, you need 2/3 majority. So what kind of system you have where the Supreme Court judges, after investigation, gave a report that yes, he indulged into financial corruption. It was case of financial corruption. And you see, his case was referred for impeachment, and the Parliament, you see, the advocate was Kapil Sibal. He said, "Oh, you are impeaching the judge for rupees 10 lakh. What a shame that a judge should be impeached for 10 lakh. I'm talking of
even a rupee corruption is good enough.
So,
in fact,
so this is what is the attitude of corruption. And if you look into all judgments of Supreme Court and High Courts in corruption cases, not of judges, I'm talking of corruption, normal corruption cases under anti-corruption laws, you will find corruption has become fashion of the day. They say, okay, oh, this man, poor man, suffered a lot. He first lost his job due to corruption. Then he faced trial for so many years. Oh, then it is sufficient punishment for him. Don't send him to jail.
In fact, sir, when you talked of the sexual harassment case, so I'm sorry to come in, but when you talked of that sexual harassment case against ex-Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi, the victim was reinstated and all charges dropped.
Yes.
So that means she was speaking the truth. And if she put that allegation, why did you not put a contempt on her if she was speaking lies? So I mean, such a duality of the Supreme Court in the sexual harassment case.
Going round and round. Let us come to the basic problem. Where does the corruption start and how it can be tackled?
So that is one issue. But if we go by the argument where Dushyant Dave says, I mean, I'm just coming to the Prashant Bhushan case, where Dushyant Dave says clearly while he's arguing for Prashant Bhushan, he says only some judges got to hand politically sensitive cases. Justice Rohinton Nariman never gets assigned to these matters. So this, I mean, of course, everybody is interested to know that why is it only that favored few are put into all the important benches as Chief Justice will do it as the master of the roster. I mean, when this comes on board that Rohinton Nariman is not given any of these politically sensitive cases, what does it speak of the court?
See, again, same thing I will say. It is not marking of cases which is the main problem of corruption. It is the corruption at basic level, starting from the appointment till elevation. You see, appointment at High Court level, then elevation from High Court to Supreme Court, then constitution of benches. Everywhere corruption is involved. Corruption is not only taking money.
Yeah,
Corruption is not accepting, you see, although I know that some judges are called briefcase judges, but corruption is not only being briefcase judge.
of course, even prevention of corruption doesn't only
Then
say
you
taking
are
money.
not
It is,
behaving like a judge.
of course.
You are behaving like a person totally biased, totally unconcerned with the result of what you are going to give on the society, and you are not concerned what will society think of my action. I am here to do certain things in certain manner. So I am not talking of, see, benches are fixed day in, day out by advocates itself. Why to talk of Supreme Court Chief Justice? Bench hopping, bench shopping, bench jumping is very common. You know which every advocate in Supreme Court knows before which bench, which judge, which advocate will click.
That is true. That is true. So,
I
And,
have a question, ma'am. I have a question here that we all of us, sir, with the most respect, sir, I would like to say that we have been aware of all these issues since a long time. This is not a new thing. Then the question is, why are we not doing anything about it? And it is just not with the judiciary, but it is also with the citizenry of this country that we are not taking any steps to do anything. So, sir, do you think that there is lack of public awareness also and a lack of public initiative also, which is responsible for this sort of rot in the judiciary?
Isava, what do you say?
so I mean, Vedansh has raised a very important point that when we know that these cases, if they go to this particular bench, you must engage this lawyer. So if this is in the social milieu, then how do we control it?
Yes, I have a very simple method of control. See, we are living in an era of specialization. Why we change benches every 3 days, every 5 months, every 6 months? Why we keep changing benches in High Court? You know it. In High Court, roster is changed every 6 months or every 3 months. In some High Courts, it is changed after every 6 weeks. And in Supreme Court, you see there is no roster. The cases are marked to the benches, and you see Chief Justice is the master of roster. So why we are living in era of specialization today? Not specialization, super specialization. If you have to go to a heart, if you have a heart problem, you go to a heart specialist. You do not go to a general physician. General physician will only tell you that you have heart problem. Please go to
But
it.
sir, sorry to interrupt, but then my issue is that we know if dates are taken to avoid certain benches, what is the solution? I mean, and that would be one thing which will be able to curb corruption in a big way.
I'm coming to that. If we have specialization in courts, right from the bottom till top, if we have specialized criminal case courts, then from those specialized criminal courts at trial court level, then at session court level, and then at high court level, where the judges, same judges, will function as criminal court judges for throughout their life. There will be no bench changing. Then you have no option but to argue your case before the state. And the bench will not take minutes in understanding the case. Today, what is happening? A judge is appointed to High Court. He comes from tax background. You know that even taxation advocates are also appointed as High Court judges. next day he is made to sit on civil bench or criminal bench. He doesn't know ABC of the civil law, or he doesn't know ABC of the criminal. I know judges who, after being appointed to High Court from civil jurisdiction, they were practicing totally civil jurisdiction. See, mostly judges, advocates specialize. Some people are only.
So that is fine. But what do you say when the Chief Justice becomes a member of Parliament on a political party? I mean, how do we justify that? That means when he's in that chair, he is compromised.
See, Chief Justice, his prerogative what he wants to do afterwards.
So then don't you feel, sir, that judges after retirement there should be a cooling off period for all bureaucrats and judges, that once they retire for 3 years, they can't take up any job. They can't, like in the UK, there's a understanding that not a single judge, they retire at 70, but they can take arbitration, but not a single judge in the United Kingdom takes up any case, any arbitration once he retires. So why don't we do that?
Again, same thing.
No, but we need to find solutions, sir.
So one solution is specialization. That you make specialized courts where there is no issue and no question of bench hopping. The same bench is there. When you come, you file case today, after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, till the judge retires, he will be on the same bench. Till the next judge may join him, but the bench will remain the same. So where is the issue of bench hopping? You cannot bench shopping or hopping, both will go. And then
I mean, this is a very good word you've used, bench hopping and bench shopping. I think this can be a hashtag for today's talk. You know, Vedansh, you can
Right.
use this, bench hopping and bench shopping. Sir, but
Sure,
again, I mean, I'm little digressing and coming back again. People are asking a question that when we are doing selective cases in Supreme Court, why, when Vedansh said that an 11-year-old case is picked up at such a juncture of Prashant Bhushan. In fact, I would like to talk about the migrant crisis. We all knew how migrants were walking across states, how they were facing so many problems. They lost their jobs, they were hungry, they were on the roads. You had pregnant women walking, you had little children walking. In fact, some of the children died before reaching home. And when Harsh Mandir and others filed that PIL, Supreme Court was not ready to listen. After 3 months, when the case came up, the Chief Justice clearly said that when they have been provided food, why do they need money? I mean, he was not ready to talk of wages. And when the NGOs, in fact, Prashant Bhushan was also arguing that case for the petitioner. And when they talked of NGOs started giving some facts, they said, we don't believe them. And end with the justice was, the final order said, we call upon the respondents, that is the Union of India, to look into such materials and to take such steps as it finds fit to resolve the issues raised in the petition. I mean, is this type of order? Migrants,
again,
the courts did not stand up for the migrants, and for in a lockdown, they are ready to take up the contempt.
There is no end of such orders, because I think you must have also read in newspaper other day that Supreme Court said, on this day Krishna was born in jail and you are asking bail. These are no arguments. So
right.
let us not go into the individual cases. Let us.
No, but migrants issue also, sir. People felt that when all channels are running the migrant distress, why did Supreme Court not step in immediately?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not Supreme Court. I can't tell you.
No, but I'm saying, sir. But when the students are there,
did this? Why did not this? How can you see? You and I say, why? What is in the mind of the judge? Why he is not taking?
But you know these things, sir. But these things really impact. Like these are students. These are law students. Like today, I was reading the Indian Express said that the law students are now taking up issues for Barabar Rao. Why bail is not being granted to these elderly people? So I think law faculty students should come in, file petitions. You know, like I mean, as they should do that sort of a CSR work. That which issues they feel should be looked into. At least being in Delhi, these students can play a vital role.
Yes, ma'am. We hear you, ma'am. You have made an important point, and equally, actually we agree with sir also that today we have come here to discuss the larger issues. Point well taken, because we have very limited amount of time. So that said, sir, we already know that such things are persisting. Now, sir, what is the way forward? You said that there should be specialized judges and the roster should be decided on the basis of specialization, right? But sir, these reforms are
It is not
pertaining to.
roster. There should be specialized court, specialized benches. Say there
Okay.
should be one constitution bench in
Okay.
Supreme Court. And that all constitutional matters,
Okay.
interpretation of constitution must go to the same bench. Every time a new interpretation
Correct.
is given to the same article. You see, if the same bench is hearing the constitutional matter, somebody can show mirror. Look, dear sir, on in last case you had decided like this. You cannot
Right.
now say that this is not the law. You see, what is happening today is that one bench is passing different law, other bench is not even looking into that law and passing another law. So
Right.
it becomes very difficult for even students to know what is the law.
What is the
You
law?
see, as a student, learned one thing, that law is fixed and known to the citizen. Every citizen is supposed to know law. Why? Because law is something which is fixed and it is laid down by parliament or laid down by the Supreme Court or High Court. Now, after becoming advocate and judge, I know that there is no law in this country. The parliament may lay down one law. The law can be directly reversed by Supreme Court or High Court. And one bench can interpret in one manner and another bench can interpret in different manner. I can show judgments where the same law has been interpreted in totally diverse manner. So that is the problem. That is the problem, that why should not we target this problem of
Sure.
benches giving diverse judgments without knowing. You see, then I know one case in which a overruled judgment was quoted by the High Court. And when it matter came to Supreme Court said contempt should be started against the advocate who cited overruled judgment. It did not say that contempt should be started against the judge who relied upon the overruled judgment.
True.
Why the judge
So I have one question, sir. In fact, I would like to share here that why only bench? I would talk of courts. I was the intervener in Salman Khan hit and run case. And in the Sessions Court, the judgment which came, it said, yes, Salman Khan is responsible for drunken driving and there was a pavement dweller who died and one was seriously injured. And the Sessions Court gave him 5 years imprisonment. Now, when it came to High Court, the whole order was turned totally and he was let off scot-free. I mean, when you have a fact, and in fact, there were so many Twitter jokes saying that it was a robot which was driving the vehicle. It was because a person died, but nobody was punished. And then the legal advocacy we took to such an extent that finally Maharashtra government has gone in appeal to Supreme Court against the Bombay High Court order. So my thing is the facts are the same, but one court gives 5 years imprisonment and in appeal everything is just overturned. So how do we check that? How do we make that accountability?
In fact, this is my question also to sir, that there is a wide scope for discretion. I would also like to talk about procedural aspects, like we have the extraordinary writ jurisdiction. Now, there are no rules framed per se as to the manner in which the case would be dealt. And because of that, few cases, I have seen that judgments have been pronounced in a matter of one day. That also I have seen, and I have seen writ petitions lingering for years at stretch. So when there is no procedure per se to deal with the matters, then we are giving a wide discretion. And when there is such discretion, when there are no rules, so then I feel, sir, that there should be rules for case management, should be rules for dealing with the cases per se. Now, how do we, sir, the question is, how do we inculcate this spirit of abiding by the rules in the judiciary? Because somehow the judges tend to rely on the inherent jurisdiction and a lot of times even rules are not relied upon. So
There is
how
no
can we
inherent
actually instill
jurisdiction.
this?
There is no inherent jurisdiction with the Supreme Court or with the High Court to take up a particular case. Inherent jurisdiction is there to do justice in the case before them. There is no inherent jurisdiction to
Right.
subvert the law. This is, you see, something very different. You read in the even basic aspect of inherent jurisdiction. It is inherent jurisdiction in the case before you to do justice. That there is no law, and inherent jurisdiction can be invoked only if there is no law pertaining to that area. You can't invoke inherent jurisdiction when there is a clear-cut law. And you say, no, no, I won't follow law, I will follow my own conscience. Sorry, there is no such inherent jurisdiction with any court. Then you see, inherent jurisdiction starts with civil judges right from the lowest civil court till the Supreme Court. Then every civil judge will say, I will go by my inherent jurisdiction, I won't follow law. So inherent jurisdiction is not that. That is why I say that the Supreme Court and High Court, even those judges, I was saying that you see these 4 judges of Supreme Court held press conference. That is where my question is. These very judges of Supreme Court, what they did when they were Chief Justice of High Court in their own High Court?
True.
Did they frame any rule? Did they bring that High Court in order? You see, some of the Chief Justices, they were damn failures as Chief Justices.
So
but they
maybe,
were not
sir, I'm
successful.
sorry to come in, but maybe they didn't want to spoil their chances of reaching the Supreme Court.
This is what I'm saying.
Huh.
That they may be damn failure as Chief Justice, but they were taken to Supreme Court. I know of a Delhi High Court judge who kept listening, hearing cases for our final argument before he was transferred to another High Court as a Chief Justice. He piled up about more than 150 cases. His chamber was full of heard cases filed. And then once he was transferred, he simply said, all these cases are be sent back for rehearing. So 150 cases, you can understand how much clients have suffered. They paid fees to their advocates for a number of days of hearing. And the judge simply said, sorry, I have no time and I'm going. And this same judge in other High Court where he became Chief Justice was also, you see, much laughed upon for his remarks, sexual remarks on women. And then he was brought to Supreme Court because he belonged to a particular religious community. And Supreme Court wanted to see a judge from that community.
So yes, you have raised a very important point,
So
because
that,
I was reading somewhere that when Allahabad, the bench was coming and Justice Thakur was the Chief Justice, I mean, he refused almost 11 names from UP, Allahabad High Court, because they all belong to a particular community or were with political ideology. Because today, judges are aligning to certain political parties, and we can see that and why should you have an advocate general from a political leaning? Why is it so that when parties change or governments change, your law officers are also changed? Why don't we have a certainty of tenure for the advocate general, for the additional advocate general? Why should they be from a political party, and why should they resign when the government goes?
they don't argue law, they argue politics. So that is why.
So I think we need voices like you to really motivate.
Once the advocates start arguing law, I would understand. You see, I'm sorry, you are also an advocate. You see, advocates argue on behalf of their party. They don't argue law only. See, you tell the advocate, I have committed murder. They committed this murder. You have to say me, here is your fee. He will go to court and you see, argue in your favor that this murder was never committed by you. So I'm not on that issue. I'm not arguing, neither I'm discussing, because it is their profession to argue on their behalf of their client, and government is a client. So they
No, sir, I'm talking of appointment. That
Huh?
when, I mean, if
So
it's
you see,
Congress, we could have their own
Attorney
people.
General or Advocate General, they are all law officers of the government. Government actually becomes
So,
their
but
client.
I feel, sir, but I feel if someone is there and if he's from the BJP and suppose Congress has come in that state, why should they be removed? Maybe when we talk of improving the system, changing the system, why don't we make a fixity of tenure for these people also?
You can't have changed the system by these kind of things. You will have to change the system right from the bottom.
We need to, sir, we need to. But then when we
So
are
yeah,
talking to
From
the
the
youth,
bottom.
they are
Starting from the
heralders
one
of
question
change.
here. Okay,
Starting
I
from
have
the
something to
point.
add. I have something to add. Abha ma'am also said, like a few minutes back, she said that the law students have to play an important role. And today, this discussion is primarily for the law students. Now, the law students are watching what is happening and they are making up their mind. Maybe they are not speaking out still. But here is an important question that most of us today are law students. So, what role do we play to actually tackle this issue? What sort of role we can play, what can we do to make the judiciary accountable, and how do we instill a sense of idealism inside the students, because they are watching all this happening and they are it seems to them that this is the natural order of things. So how do we instill that sense of idealism, and the question is, how do the students actually play a part in this fight against judicial corruption?
See, it is a matter of convenience. Let me tell you that last students, when they come for doing PhD, most of them take such topics which are already known to everyone. I have not seen a single law student picking up a topic about and doing research in the working of the Supreme Court or in the working of the High Court, how the Supreme Court and High Court function, and what kind of system is followed in listing cases, what kind of system is followed in giving punishment to the risk. We have no system, and no law student, no research paper, no PhD student has ever taken these topics for their research, and they have not taken as see, I have seen PhD topics. They are very usual topics which have been written upon many times, and see, cut and paste job is done, which is most easy job to have PhD. See, the research, which is research paper, writing a research paper based on facts. There are very few people who take up this challenge. And I know one, for foreign students came to Supreme Court, and he had done research on Supreme Court functioning. He found out that most of the cases which are heard by Supreme Court are of rich people, are of those people who are living around within area of 100, 200 kilometer of Supreme Court, because they can afford to reach Supreme Court. Otherwise, the common man say in Supreme Court, he's found is nil. See, as my personal experience is that more than 50% of the time of Supreme Court is utilized in hearing PILs or hearing cases of known, well-known rich advocates who charge 3 lakh to 20 lakh as a per hearing fee. This is what Supreme Court does. Actually, what I feel is, so our courts are not meant for common person. They are not meant for litigants. They are now meant for giving jobs to their near and dear, jobs of judges, wherever they can find fit, and they are there to promote the business of advocates. There are some known advocates. See, there are thousands and thousands of advocates who are practicing Supreme Court, but the real money-making advocates are those who are close to the Supreme Court judges, who are close to the relatives of Supreme Court judges. You see, a son of Supreme Court judge or High Court judge, once he passes out law, LLB, if he wants to go in practice, there are firms who will take him and offer him more than 2 lakh per month as a stipend. And if a common LLB student, after LLB, he wants to go and practice in High Court, If he goes to a senior, he will tell him, you can learn with me, but I will not pay you a single penny. You will have to feed yourself. This is the situation. See, as to our sons and wards of Supreme Court and High Court judges, they are offered, see, by all public sector undertakings panels. They are not offered to ABC or your unknown people. So the real corruption starts from there. Where is, see, you can, unless we as a people decide that we will not be corrupt, and corruption is not only in judiciary, it is in every walk of life. It is equally in advocates, it is equally in police, it is much more in police, it is equally in chartered accountants, it is equally in all professions. Why the corruption is there? Because we as a society have accepted corruption as a norm of life. Unless we reject the corruption, and there are very few people who are prepared to pay the price of being honest. Today, being honest has a price, being corrupt has no price. So you have to sacrifice.
True.
This is the picture of society.
True. So a very informative thing sir has talked about, that the law students also, this is what I draw out of it, that the law students need to research, they need to actually play their part, which the law students are also failing to do. So it is just not that the judiciary has fault with its functioning, but it is the general citizenry also, the law students, the general
the lawyers also.
Have your professors ever guided you that you take this topic?
No, in
so
fact,
that is a topic in itself. Academia is a topic in itself.
Even here, I would say the definition of contempt. I mean, what is scandalizing the court? I mean, I would like you students to work on this, because in certain judgments, the courts themselves the Supreme Court has held that personal criticism of a judge does not amount to fair criticism. Then what is scandalizing the court? I mean, in Shiv Shankar 1988, the Supreme Court had held that a criticism of court that does not impair and hamper administration of justice cannot be punished as contempt. So what I'm trying to say is that you all can, public opinion. Ultimately, what did the bench say? That they said that you have put in a very wrong picture of the court in front of the public, and you are the opinion makers. Why don't you take up these issues? Take up this contempt act and see, you define what is malicious, what is scurrilous, what is scandalizing. Let it not be subjective. Let not only be to the discretion of the judge or the court to decide. Let there be parameters. So your research, your papers should be pertaining to this.
Very well said, ma'am. I agree with you.
To narrate a short story. You see, it is very interesting that there was a king before whom one see this जो ये जुलाहा होता है वो आया. उसने कहा कि सब मैं इतना बढ़िया सूत बनाता हूँ कि आप जो है इतने मेरे जैसा महीन सूत कोई नहीं बना सकता. तो उसने खड्डी मंगवाई और वो करके वो खड्डी चलाने लगा, लेकिन कुछ दिख नहीं रहा था. राजा गया, कहता है सर इसकी खूबी यही है कि ये सूत इतना महीन है कि आपको नहीं दिखेगा नंगी आंख से. खैर उसने सूत बनाया, फिर दर्जी बुलाया करके और राजा को कपड़े पहना दिए उस सूत के. अब राजा घोड़े के ऊपर बैठ करके शहर के भ्रमण करने लगा और चारों तरफ लोग देखने लगे कि राजा कितना बढ़िया महीन सूत का कपड़ा पहन के बैठा है. उनमें एक बच्चा था, वो देख करके बड़ा हैरान हुआ. उसने ताली बजाई, राजा नंगा राजा नंगा राजा नंगा. तो हमारे यहाँ कोई ये कहने वाला नहीं है कि राजा नंगा राजा नंगा राजा. आज ऐसे लोगों की जरूरत है जो ये कह सके कि राजा नंगा है, और उसके लिए अगर कोई पनिशमेंट मुझे मिलेगी तो मैं लेने को तैयार हूँ.
सर इसीलिए तो हम कह रहे हैं कि कंटेम्प्ट में अगर जेल जाना है तो चले जाओ. डरो मत. मन से डर निकाल दो. वो है ना, जो डर गया वो मर गया.
जेल में
सर इन्होंने यही तो कहा कि हम
6 महीने की जेल दे सकता है सुप्रीम कोर्ट.
हाँ 6 महीने की दे सकता है.
तो 6 महीने में
तैयार हो जाइए. अगर आजादी के लिए लोग अपनी जान गंवाने को तैयार थे, तो एज लॉ स्टूडेंट्स, एज लॉयर्स, हमारी भी जवाबदारी बनती है कि हम कोर्ट की इंटेग्रिटी और ऑनेस्टी, ट्रांसपेरेंसी के लिए 6 महीने जेल चले जाएं. That is
बिल्कुल।
what I feel.
लेकिन एक यहाँ पे एक पॉइंट है कि क्या सिर्फ 6 महीने है, क्योंकि ये भी डिबेट किया जा रहा है कि हम कोर्ट ये कहते हैं वी आर नॉट डिराइविंग आवर पावर्स फ्रॉम द कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट एक्ट एंड वी आर आवर पावर इज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पावर एंड अगेन द कोर्ट हैज प्रोनाउंस्ड जजमेंट्स which have been more than 6 months also. So this is where I would like to say that
pay the price. This is what I said. Please be ready to pay the price.
okay, yes sir.
Maybe 1 year,
So,
maybe 2 years.
yes
But
sir,
one has to be ready to pay the price.
that's true sir, that's true. So we are now running out of time. We will take 2-3 questions. Whosoever has question, they can put it out in the chat window right now and we will take those questions. Meanwhile, I would like to show a very interesting work which has been done by few law students at the Singapore University, where they have actually went ahead and analyzed all the judgments of the Supreme Court statistically to point out the corruption in the Supreme Court, as sir was talking about. So I am just sharing that research paper on the screen for all of us to look. So this is the paper. It's called Jobs for Justices, Corruption in the Supreme Court of India. It has been actually written by Madhav S. Ane, Shubhankar Dham, and the other guy. And they have meticulously gone on to explore the orders of the Supreme Court, and they have statistically pointed out as to what is wrong with the judiciary. So I think this is what our esteemed speakers are saying when they are urging us to do qualitative work and
Yes.
Coming out with such stuff where you are combining the rigor of the academia with the earnestness of an advocate. So
In
I
fact,
guess
Vedansh, the paper which you are showing, one of the students is Madhav Ane. Madhav's
ma'am.
father is a senior counsel in Maharashtra High Court. He comes from Maharashtra. So definitely, I mean, I know Madhav, I've attended his marriage. So you see, there are people from here who are going to Singapore and working for them and doing such a good job. So I would expect students like you to actually take on these issues and write papers. And you are the future. You are the powerful voice. Be the powerful voice which would be heard and dreaded by every court and judge.
Amazing, amazing. So thank you so much, our speakers. I guess there are actually a lot of questions, and this one session is not enough. What we are going to do is, as our speakers have suggested, we will compile a research paper as to whatever has been discussed today and all the questions which have been raised by the participants. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. And
but
there
you
are a
can
lot
take
of
my email. It is abhasingadvocate@gmail.com. And also I have a Twitter handle, which is also very simple, Abhasing lawyer, @Abhasing lawyer. So if there are some questions which you all want me to answer, I will be more than glad. So
ma'am, actually, I want to tell you there are hundreds of questions. We have got about 400 registrations today. And this is just in a matter of 2 days. There are students
But then
who
you
are
just
joining.
realize that there is so much potential. There are so many people, there are so many students who are involved, who want to work for the country, who want to make a change. So let us channelize this positive energy. And if people are saying, why don't we do away with Article 129? That is Prashant Pratyay. I agree with you. It's time we do away with contempt, because आप सच्चाई जानने का अधिकार सबको है. Even I feel we should do away with sedition laws, when just for speaking Varawar Rao and all are not getting bail in times of COVID. When Safura Zargar, she is slapped with UAPA. We need to raise our voice. You can't just stifle our voice. So I feel if these questions, let's put this positive energy to some use and work for change. The change begins from today, from this webinar.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Justice Dhingra. It is our pleasure to have both of you on the webinar. And I must say that this should not be the first webinar. We want to be associated to you. All the students want to be associated to you. This is just the beginning today. And what we will do as students, we will actually go ahead on the suggestions which have been given by both of our speakers today. And on behalf or of all the students of Faculty of Law, I would like to extend the vote of thanks. I would like to especially thank Mr. Ashwini Vijayarania, who's played a very pivotal role in organizing this webinar. I would like to thank all the students of Faculty of Law. I would like to thank all the students who have joined in from various parts of the country. With so much excitement. It's been more than an hour, but we still see there are about 14 people who are waiting, and we don't have space to accommodate all of them. So from next time onwards, we will make sure that all of you get a chance to speak. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure interacting with you. And please do research and never be scared. That is what I would like to tell you, that people ask me that you take up so many issues, like Adarsh was the PIL which we handled and the chief minister had to resign. Even in Salman Khan's case, Sessions Court, we had 5 years imprisonment. AIB roast, I got an FIR on almost 14 of them. So I always say that my biggest strength is my knowledge, biggest strength is my hard work. So that is my message to all of you. You all have taken a wonderful profession. I mean, I would say after freedom fighters, lawyers can be the real fighters for freedom. So be proud of your profession and take on the system, because you have the caliber, you have the intellect. Only thing you require is the willpower. Money will come later on as you grow in your seniority. But put in your first 5 years for the system, and you will find a way. Where there is a will, there's a way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, all our speakers. Our speakers have empowered us today. They have told us that law is supreme and we ought to make the law followed, and we ought to make the judiciary accountable, even if it is questioning the highest people in the judiciary. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining up this webinar today. This is just not the first webinar. We will be coming up with more such webinars in the near future. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.